defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Folks, before we start our program, I would like to ask you to subscribe to our reminder service by going to our website, libertytalkradio.com, and clicking on the subscribe icon. We don't sell your name to anyone. Just use as a reminder service only. Everything is perfectly confidential. Also, like us on Facebook and download our app. We have an app for the smartphones, or dumb phones. I don't know what you want to call them these days, but so that you can listen to our programs, using your smartphone. Okay, and with that, today we don't have a guest, but I would like to sort of summarize things a little bit, and I guess maybe out of my own frustration. Quite frankly, I do not understand about everything that's going on. Now, if you guys want enlightenment, you're not going to get it from me today. For some reason, I cannot watch the news. In fact, if I ever watch the news or even watch the programs like Stuart Varney or MSNBC, just to get a flavor for what is going on, after about, it doesn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes, I've had it with them and I'm out. In fact, just the other day, I was listening to Lou Dobbs for a few minutes, and all they talk about is, Congressman so-and-so said this, and then Senator so-and-so said that. I have no idea what they're talking about. And it's some minutia, some stupid thing, has nothing to do with us, and it makes no difference anyway. So I turned on, at the same time, just right afterwards, I turned on RTV, Russia TV America, by the way, and they were talking about the same thing, but they only gave it like 30 seconds or 1 minute mention, and then they went on showing U.S. warplanes bombing Syria. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, what's more important? These clowns in Washington that are just fooling us and lying through their teeth, and to no consequence whatsoever, whether right, wrong, guilty, or innocent, makes no difference whatsoever. And yet, absent from the entire conversation from the mainstream media, is the fact that we're bombing Syria. In fact, we came, they say, within feet of crashing into a Russian fighter plane, and as a result, Russia broke off diplomatic sanctions, partial diplomatic sanctions with the United States. Now, that's big. Not a word on mainstream television. And, and they talk as if everything is fine, but we have these little areas that need to be refined so everything would be perfect. Well, folks, nothing is perfect. Anything that you hear on television is of no consequence whatsoever. Let me give you an idea. This is something that bugs the heck out of me, and that's our debt. You look at our debt today, it is incredible. In fact, and this is a round figure. You can do your own calculations. This is my calculation that I just do off the cuff. We increase our debt by $12,000 per second. $12,000. I mean, my wife can't spend that in a clothing store in an hour, and yet our government can do that in a second. Now that equates to somewhere around $720 to maybe $750,000 per minute, right? And then the clowns. Now I can't call them congressmen because that would be insulting congressmen. The clowns and the I guess the Crips and the what's the other motorcycle Crips and the Bloods, right, or whatever, the Bloods, in Washington, because they suck the blood right out of you, right? Those clowns in Washington, They talk about is, the budget, this and that, and they're going to do this, but they have no money. We already exceeded the debt ceiling by all accounting practices. You have no money. You can't spend a dime. Everything should have stopped and died at that time. If they didn't raise the ceiling, or they didn't voluntarily cut some programs out so we'd be within budget, we should have stopped spending money. But you know what we did? We accelerated spending. And where did we do it? We did it in the military. Why do we do it in the military? It's simple. Because there's a few people who get government contracts to make bombs and planes, etc., which they love blowing up because they got to make more bombs and more planes and stuff like that, And then these contracts that they get, there are kickbacks, and who gets the kickback? Well, I got a secret for you folks, and I know you're going to find this difficult to believe, but I'm not one of the recipients, okay? I don't get anything, because all the people within the Beltway are getting it. In fact, one of my board operators today, we were talking about this, I said, just look at Washington, D.C. You have the Beltway. Everything within the Beltway. If you've ever been to Washington, the finest restaurants, the finest hotels, multi-million-dollar homes, all the office buildings, exceptional. I mean, they're just grandioso. They're like castles, everything, right? You go one block out of the Beltway, abject poverty, right? And you say, well, geez, how come the people aren't rioting? Well, because the people in the Beltway are taxing the productive people all over the country to give the people who are not working some subsistence, so they don't riot, So they steal from us, they rob from us, and then they destroy us, and then they destroy society as a whole, and then they run for office and we vote for them. Now, I tell you, I'll be honest with you, I'm becoming clinically depressed. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. They talk about and the clowns on television, and how they get these clowns on television is beyond me. Now, I'm a financial guy. I'm a commodities guy. I mean, I know something about economics and finance. I'm not a professor. I have no degrees in that, but I've been studying this for years. I have millions of dollars invested. I understand the business. I understand it. And yet, these clowns are on television. When they get on there, what do they say? They go, oh, the economy seems to be doing fine, a little bit more strength here. We have some stocks doing this, doing it. What minutia garbage. It's just absolute gibberish. The fact is that we have the demographics. Harry Dent does a great job of explaining this, and you should read some of his books, especially the demographics cliff. We have, back in the early 1900s, right? It was an asset to have children. Today, it's a liability to have children. Children, I saw this figure. How they arrived at it, I don't know. They say to raise a child today costs $732,000. How they arrived at it, and they qualified by saying, and that didn't include college tuition. Well, back in the old days, you wanted to have kids because they actually supported the family. Children went to work young, they went to school maybe for a couple of years learning reading, writing, arithmetic, then found a job. They helped the family out. They helped the family job in either in the home, on the farm, in the factory that maybe, or they learn a skill from their grandfather, from their father. Today, all that's gone. Now they go to government schools, and this is what I love. Government schools, my favorite subject here. I read this article from the Foundation of Economic Education. It says create 13 other reasons why schools are creating a lost generation. And they talk about kids go to school for 13 years. It's like going to jail. They say American kids can't vote. Well, so what you do is students always come last at everything. We have bloated administrations. Kids are taught to worship government, shun individual responsibility. Public schools teach no marketable skills. They ban Ayn Rand and Huckleberry Finn. State directed curriculum, one size fits all. And, you get kids from all backgrounds, all different ages, maturity-wise, and they're all taught the same stupid thing. Kids graduate clueless about finances. Hoop jumper worship drives out the talented and the curious. That's another topic. Powerful unions, oh, that's beautiful. Millionaire teachers and mediocre teachers can't get fired. And you should read the article. It's by the Future of Freedom Foundation, one of my favorite organizations. I financially support them because they do just fine work. They do research. And it's called 13 Other Reasons Why Schools Are Creating Lost Generation. We have a school system that sucks. The whole system sucks, right? We have a tax system that's draining us dry. We have kids that are out of work, right? And then you look at our debt. Debt is beautiful today, right? If back in 2008, we were concerned about a housing bubble. Well, we still have a housing bubble. People are still in houses that they can hardly afford. They're trying to buy houses only because the interest rate is so low, and it's the only reason why they can afford it. But if things were normal, in normal conditions, they wouldn't be able to squat. They can't even afford apartments today. You find that 25% of, no, I'm sorry, one third of the 18 to 35 years old are still living at home. One third of them, right? Of that, 1/4 don't have a job. This is unheard of. I mean, this makes the Depression almost look like boom times, right? The amount of school debt now is, I think, $1.4 trillion. It exceeds credit card debt, which is approaching $1.2 trillion. We still have a housing bubble. All of this, the credit card debt, the school debt, housing debt, the auto bubble debt. This is a real beauty. You know, come in, buy a car. This ad's on TV all the time. Guys driving a car, he says, oh, don't worry about it. You can afford this because there's no payment for 6 months and 0 down. And then the next scene, you see the guy on his skidoo. What do you call that? The water boat that you sit in. Skidoo, yeah. He's on a skidoo, and of course the salesman's right behind him, and they're both smiling. Yay, we're having a great time, right? But they don't tell you that what they do is, as collateral, they not only take the car, but they take anything you own as collateral. So not if, but when you go past due, because you don't have a job, you can't afford this car, right? They take everything that you own. The little that you own is now belongs to the car company. The car company comes back, gets a car back, let's say within a year, right? It's already depreciated $10,000. They have too many cars on the parking lot that they can't sell because no one has any money. They're riding the bus or walking because their car got repossessed, right? So the auto industry is going down the tubes. You got to look at this from statistically and geographically and financially. It's an absolute horrible operation. So, and yet they get the clowns on television saying, "Oh, the economy is doing great." What planet is this guy on? You know, quite frankly, I don't think anything makes any sense to me whatsoever. If anyone wants to chime in, please call in 646-652-4620, or you can call in on Skype on Liberty Talk Guest. We'll put you right on the air. We'll put your picture on the air on Skype, Liberty Talk Guest. Just call in and we'll put you on. Don't worry, we have split screens. We may have a conversation with 2 or 3 people, even better. But for people to say everything is fine, what is going to happen when people are so incredibly strapped? They say now half or 3/4 of the people, I forgot what the number is, but it was a phenomenal, like half the people in the United States cannot scrape up $500 in the event of an emergency. It's just insane. And we call ourselves the richest country in the world. We're one of the poorest countries in the world. And as far as government debt is concerned, the dollar amount of our government debt, we rank number 1. We were number 1 in something. We're number 1. We're number 1 in the amount of debt. Now, you say, well, it's all relationship. There are countries that are smaller. So if you take it in relation to GDP, which is about the size of your country, right? Guess what? We're now number 5 out of 208 countries. We're number 5. And guess who's ahead of us? Oh, some real wonderful countries, you know. Bankrupt Italy, Greece, Cyprus, and one other country. I can't remember what, you know, all underwater. Oh, and Japan. That's right. Japan has more debt than we do, but their debt is internal. Their debt is actually stronger than our debt. Our debt is very weak, you know. So here we are, you know, as a larger nation, we're in the worst shape at all. And yet the clowns on television tell you how great things are. Someday these people are going to wake up to television. They're going to turn on their favorite program with the girl with the beautiful blonde hair and the nice legs. You know, the girls that I lust after, you know, you too, Sally. You lust after these girls too, right, Sally?
No.
No, you don't lust after them. What were you going to say?
I speak for all the blondes in the world that we have credit cards, Joe. We can do anything we want.
That's right, credit card debt. Did I mention
Yes.
credit card debt?
Yes, you did. You said we were number one.
No, did I mention credit card debt as well as school debt and auto loan debt? I mentioned credit card debt, didn't I? I don't know if I did. I'm ranting like crazy.
I think I've lived through all those. And I talked to a financial guy yesterday.
Yeah.
And he told me that, he said, Sally, I hate to tell you this, but the old days are gone. They're never coming back. And I said, you mean when my dad worked hard and put money away and he earned on his investments and was able to do all this neat stuff? And he said, yeah, those days are just gone. I went, thanks. Now that I have $5 to put in an investment, then there's no hope for me. And I just thought, I'd like to talk to another financial guy. I think we've got one on the line.
Yeah, but wait a minute. If he says it gone, the old days are gone. What's in its place? What was he saying? I don't know what he's saying.
Mediocrity.
Oh, okay. All right. He's compared to me, he's an optimist then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he wasn't totally down,
Yeah.
but I just thought, I'd like to get the opinion of somebody else. Maybe.
Well, you know what's going to happen?
Maybe
when
we have somebody
our
on.
guests on, we're going to have the guest on in a second, but some days people are going to wake up one morning and turn on and watch the beautiful girls on television, It's amazing that, they all look the same. They're like all kissing cousins.
They're all blonde.
And they're going to say, oh, by the way, we have a financial collapse. The whole system's down, And you know what the American stupid public's going to be? A bunch of zombies. We were a zombie nation. That's what a zombie nation. We're all zombies, They're going to say, oh, how did that happen? Well, it happened because you have no brains. Americans are stupid. We got to be the dumbest people in the world. Because in any other country, go to sub-Saharan Africa, people go, these guys are nuts. They have some practical skills. They understand the value of working, of creating something, of staying out of debt. They understand that better than we do, and they have nothing. They're going to survive better than we do. We have a guest on the line? All right, guest. Who are we? Who do we have?
It's a financial guy.
Hey, Andy
Yay.
Sutton. Thank you for calling in, Andy.
Yay.
All
Finally.
right.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, Andy, how off base am I?
Well,
if you've been listening.
there's nothing else to say. You already said it all.
No, please, if you think I'm just way out, please feel free to criticize me because I'm going nuts. I don't understand anything anymore. I'm going to have Michael Pinto on the program next week, and I'm going to rant to him again. He'll probably hang up on me, But, he's a worldwide, nationally known investor, and I have a feeling he feels the same way, by the way. But what do you have to say, Andy?
Well, pointing to what you said, it all comes back to three things. Well, maybe more than three things, but there was three things that kind of jumped out at me from what you said: debt, unawareness, and I don't even know apathy.
Oh yeah,
It's not that there's different levels of, I don't like to use the word ignorance because it has such negative connotations. Even though, the definition just means that you don't know something. So let's use the term unaware. People can be unaware of something, but if they were aware, it would cause a change in their behavior. They would say, I didn't know that. Holy, mackerel, I didn't know that. I need to do this, and this because of this. Now that I have this knowledge. We don't have that. We have a population, by and large, there are a few examples, people that aren't like this, but for the most part, they don't care. They either have, and they have a credit card, or people still do have jobs. Obviously, people do work, even though they're taxed at outrageous levels and so forth. So that the majority now don't have to work, or at least work as hard. And we apparently have forgotten the lessons we learned in civics class, back in high school. Or our teachers didn't do a very good job of teaching it to us, or whatever the case was. But it's the whole thing is an issue of responsibility. We've been living off credit, debt, We've been living off savings, inheritances, whatever you want to pick for the last several decades now, and it's all running out. The savings is pretty much gone. The inheritances are getting smaller because each generation does a better job at squandering what they've gotten from the last generation. And I'm not just talking about monetary terms either. I'm talking about the freedom of the country, the state of the country, the health of the country's economy. We've been poor stewards. We've been terrible stewards. My generation, in particular, has been one of those transition generations where, the world I grew up in and the world that my child grows up in are going to be two totally different worlds, mostly because the people in my generation were kind of that swing generation that, where things went from bad to worse. But here's the thing. Jamie Dimon, CEO, J.P. Morgan, he was on the news. This was probably 2 months ago now. It was a little bit ago. And he said that he has never seen the American consumer more healthy. He has never seen a healthier American consumer. And I almost choked on, the chicken dinner that I was eating when he said that. And then I thought, well, I guess from his perspective, it probably makes sense. A healthy consumer to him is what? Somebody who has a wallet full of credit cards and is borrowing money from his bank at 20% a year. So, and they're willing to do that. So in his mind, for his bottom line and for his business's bottom line, yeah, I guess they are pretty healthy, aren't they? But for the consumer, who's looking at, paying 20% on an auto loan, 25% on credit cards, and they just don't stop. They got a mortgage. They have student loans. Did you see an article? I think I posted it on the blog, or Graham did, a few days ago about payday loans and payday loan shops. That is a booming business right now. If you want one indicator of a failing economy, it's when the payday loan shops are doing really good.
Right. Yeah.
Because you look at the terms that you end up paying, what you actually end up paying them, depending on how you handle a particular payday loan, you could end up paying as much as over 400% a year in interest. I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, that's obviously if you go the whole, to the worst extreme and basically do everything wrong. But the possibility is there to do that. You have commercials on TV, some retard that's dressed up like Superman with a cape, get cash now. You have boy bands singing advertisements about structured settlements and annuities, and this company will buy your annuity, and of course you get quite a bit less than the present value of the annuity. That's how they make their money. But this is the kind of marketing that's going on to the masses. And who sits and watches daytime TV? The only reason I see it is because I'm sitting in an ambulance station, and in between calls, and people have the television on. Otherwise, I wouldn't watch TV at all. But it's interesting to see that. Obviously, these guys are making money, or they wouldn't be making these commercials and targeting these people. The payday loan shops. Geraldo Rivera is doing I forget the name of the company. It doesn't matter. But it's basically you can get up to $2,500 within 24 hours. But it's not allowed in certain states because the interest rates are too high. It's just, when you have this and these kinds of things that are dominating your financial and economic landscape, you're in trouble as a country. You're in trouble as an economy. You're in trouble as a society. It speaks to a lack of awareness. It speaks to a lack of education. And that's, you mentioned the schools, have failed. And it's not just the schools. I mean, that's one part of it. Who do kids also pay attention to when they form their financial habits? Their parents. Look at what their parents are doing. Right. And that's why I'm talking about my generation being kind of one of the swing generations. Because, I had my kid when I was a little bit older, but, you look at somebody who's, I'm 46, say you're looking at somebody who had, their kids when they were 24, 25. Those kids are in college now. Their financial habits have already been formed. They've had a credit card for a couple of years now. They've racked up $25, $50, $75, $100,000 in student loan debt. They're fully into that system. And once you're into that, getting out of it is extremely difficult.
Right.
And that's what worries me the most. And the thing is, we have a total normalcy bias towards that. That's the new norm. And I think it was Sally that mentioned just a little bit ago, a financial person that said, the world has changed. The guy's absolutely right. The world that, and you talk to older people, a lot of the clients I used to deal with were older individuals, retired or very close to retirement, looking for, assistance in making the decision. Should I retire? Do I have enough moving forward? Is Social Security going to be something that's going to be there for me? These hard questions. And, in talking to these people, it just became very obvious that it's changed. It's not what it used to be. It used to be that, hey, when you were young, you invested in stocks. And then when you got to be about 50 or 55, you flipped it and you moved most of your money into bonds where you could make interest, and then you lived off the interest. You can't do that anymore.
Right.
If you want to get the level of interest out of an investment vehicle that is required basically to live in this world today, you have to take on 4 or 5 times the amount of risk that you would have had to back in the 1970s or 1980s. People don't understand that. That's one of those things, where there's unawareness, ignorance. They're not aware of that fact. And that's one of the reasons why, we keep doing this, is to try to hopefully catch a few of these guys and make them aware that, hey, it's not the same. But this is not your father's or your grandfather's stock market. It's not your father's or your grandfather's economy. Everything has changed. You talk to the Europeans. I talk to people from Britain, France, Spain, Australia. They become friends. We talk daily. In some cases, sometimes multiple times a day. Just sending emails back and forth about things that are going on. Their world's changed too. It's not just here; it's everywhere. People will say, "Well, where's a good place for me to go?" I don't have an answer to that question, because you look at Venezuela. I don't know who'd want to move to Venezuela, but maybe somebody would. Look what's going on there. With the shortages and just the blowout debt. And you want to know why? The only reason? Well, there's 2 reasons. The 2 reasons that we don't look like Venezuela or Greece or one of these other countries. The first is that the world, for now, accepts the dollar as the standard currency, although that's changing.
Yes.
And I said many years ago on this show, it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. It was going to be gradual. And that's exactly what's happening. The dollar loses a little bit of strength here. These 2 countries sign an agreement over here. Dollar loses a little bit more strength. And the second thing, bombs. We have a military.
Right.
So what we can't do via economic means, production, normal economic activity, sad to say, we become a country. We do it through the barrel of a gun now.
It was interesting. One of my sons is a musician, and his a good friend of his, he's known since he was very young, traveled to Europe, and he went to went to the Netherlands, I believe it was, and he played there. And I got an opportunity to see him when he came back. And I asked him, I said, well, how did you like it there? What's the difference between playing there and playing here and whatever? He said it was really enjoyable playing there because during the breaks or beforehand or after they were completed their their repertoire, they'd sit among, of course, the young people and whatever, and they all had an intelligent conversation. I said, so what's so unusual about that? He said that never happens in America. He said here in the States, when we play and we sit down with the audience, there's no conversation at all. They're just goofy and they just want to drink and have fun and joke around and all that. But there's no intellectual stimulation whatsoever. They don't know anything that's going on. Everything that they say has no essence in fact, basis of fact whatsoever. And he said, I really want to go back because I missed the conversation with young people. They talked about the economy. They talked about their relationship with other countries. They talked about jobs. They talked about all these things, their currency, the European Union, all these things. And he said, but yet if you brought any of those subjects up here in the States, when you're after performing, he said, they wouldn't give you the time of day. They just walk out on you. And he said that the mentality is so different. Our mentality is so immature and childish. He says, I'm embarrassed to be an American.
And it's interesting you bring that point up. I've never had the opportunity to travel to Europe, and it's one of the biggest reasons I regret to this point not having the chance to go over there is exactly that. Because just the email conversations that I have with people, and some of them are younger, 20-somethings, that group, they know a lot.
Yes.
They're very, I might not agree with everything that they have to say, but if you talk about a situation like Brexit or, the IMF, the World Bank, they know what these things are. They know a lot about what is going on in their countries and in their, on that particular continent. And they know a lot about what's going on here. In fact, I'll go as far as to say, I think the average European knows more about what's going on in America than the average U.S. congressman.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
And I don't think that's a stretch to say that. I have never seen a group of individuals, and I understand a lot of this is intentional and so forth, but I have never seen a group of individuals that is more disconnected than the current occupants of the 535 seats of the U.S. Congress.
Yeah.
Never.
It's
getting worse with each successive Congress.
Yeah.
Each one's worse than the last.
You just listen to all the ads, and you mentioned this. 177 Cash Now, right? J.D. Winworth, reverse mortgages, right? Oh, why have all your money tied up in your house when you could have that money now? Of course, you get 2 cents on the dollar, have that money now. And of course, you see there's people sitting on a porch and they're smiling and having a drink, having a wonderful time with all the money they have now. They don't own squat, not even the house they're living in, right? And then, what do you call 1% cash back, on all purchases, but get your credit card now. I mean, it goes on and on. It's debt because there's no option. And what really bothers me when I was reading about this article from the Foundation of Economic Education about how poor our school system is and it doesn't teach anything, is that because I'm usually off early in the afternoon, like 3-4 o'clock. I tend to take my dogs to the dog park. My wife and I work with the Animal Rescue Foundation, etc. And at that time, a high percentage of the people that are at the dog park are actually teachers, and I cannot get in a conversation with them. I don't argue with them. I want to know what's going on with the schools. They don't want to talk about it. They get very nervous. They get afraid. They actually get up and walk someplace else. They are absolutely afraid to talk about what they are doing, about the schools. They don't understand it. All they know is they have a good job. They do their job, and their answer is always the same. But I'm a good teacher. If I ask them a question about the school system, they say, "But I'm a good teacher." They don't have a clue of what's going on. I'm very disappointed in our whole school system, and I have teachers in my family. I mean, they're wonderful people, but you cannot talk about education to them. They don't know anything about education other than the script book the script that they're given to teach their kids. That's all they know from beginning to end. And there's no thought process. No one's thinking anymore.
No, that's a very scary thing. People are taking their opinions off the television, off the radio, off Facebook. You you can go on Facebook and at your own peril, I might add, and see. I mean, they have these different little, I don't know what they're called. They're images, and they have, typing in them, memes. Yeah, that's what they're called, about this or that or the other thing. And usually it's some type of a slogan, type deal, regarding some issue of politics or finance or something like that. But that's as deep as we get. Nobody asks why anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to know why.
Yeah.
Why did the national debt cross $20 trillion and then out of nowhere go back to $19.5 trillion?
Yeah.
Andy,
may I interrupt you just for a second, please? I think we have a caller on the line. Put the caller on. Is a caller on the air?
Hello.
Caller, you're on the air.
Sounds like he's there.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Caller, we can hear you. Your question or comment, please.
All right. Yes. Hi, Andy. This is Jim. Good to see you back on the broadcast. This line is breaking up a lot, so I'm going to just throw a question out to you and then hang up and listen to the broadcast on the internet.
Yeah, excuse me, Jim. Strangely
First of
enough,
all,
you're coming,
I just
Jim.
jumped on the call about 15 minutes ago, so I missed.
Can't hear me.
So I missed some of the opening banter. And I know that you're not talking about this topic, but I'm just going to change gears. Joe and I have had conversations, and we're still kind of scratching our head. I'd like to get your take on cryptocurrency and the whole evolution of that, and where it's going, and the craze of it, and pros and cons. Just give me your take on cryptocurrency, please, and I'll hang up and listen to you online. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
I don't like cryptocurrencies. I will give you a couple of reasons for that, and then I'll give you some things that have happened to back those reasons up. First of all, I'm a tangibles type person. If you're going to store wealth, and let's face it, people are looking for ways to store wealth. Cryptocurrency, people are looking at as a speculative investment. I'll use Bitcoin. There are others. People are buying Bitcoins on the hope that they can sell the Bitcoin 6 months or a year from now for more than they paid for it. That's not, by definition, a currency. That's an investment. It's a speculation. All right? It's gambling, essentially. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, has been extremely volatile. Now, if you want to treat it as that and go into it as that, hey, that's fine. I want people to make an informed decision. It is not anonymous. Everybody thinks it's anonymous. Everybody thinks, that you're hiding behind this, this wall of secrecy. That's not true. That's been proven not to be true because, what was it? A month ago, they had the attack, the ransom attack, and they were, these people were asking for Bitcoin payments for ransom, and then they couldn't get their money because they were afraid of they were going to get caught when they went to retrieve their Bitcoins. So obviously it's not that anonymous. That's strike two against it. And probably the biggest strike against it is I know whose idea this was. That individual refuses to acknowledge and take credit for the idea. But they don't tell you how it works. How exactly does this work? It's kind of a black box. You download, a wallet type app software on your computer. You send your dollars or euros or whatever into an exchange, which then swaps them out for the cryptocurrency that you select. You pay a commission, so it's like buying a stock. You pay a commission, and then you have X number of Bitcoins in your electronic wallet. The idea of an electronic wallet, frankly, scares the crap out of me. Again, maybe I'm a little too old for this, but I'm a tangibles guy. Now, some situations. First, we know it's not anonymous because the the ransom, what was that, Cry something or other, I forget. It was a little while, a couple months ago, had all of these, everybody was in an uproar over it. Well, the anonymity of cryptocurrency went out the window with that when, it was stated that, well, these guys, they can't retrieve their coins because we know which wallets the coins are in, and as soon as they go to exchange them, they're going to get busted. So they know what you're doing. If you're trying to use this as a means of secrecy and acting under the table, as part of the underground economy, even for something like paying for lawn care or whatever, you might as well slip the neighborhood kid a $20 bill and call it a day, because that's going to be a lot more anonymous. Second thing, it's not a currency. It's not a money because it doesn't meet the qualifications of money. It's not a store of wealth, at least not a reliable one. You could buy in all the way up here, and the next thing you know, when you need that cash, now it's down here. That's not a store of wealth. All right? They are homogenous. What happens if the internet goes down? We've had, attacks against different social network sites, Facebook, Twitter. This one's been down for a day. That one's been down for a day. Let's just go with something, that's totally natural. Say we have a lightning strike, and half your equipment gets fried, and you can't get access to the internet. You don't have access to your money. So there's a lot of problems. We had Bitfinex, which is one of the big exchanges over in, I believe it's Hong Kong. They were hacked not that long ago, and those people got bailed in. The people that had Bitcoin positions in that exchange were bailed in to make up for the losses incurred by the exchange. So that was an example of a bail-in. This is not good. This is not a good thing, in my opinion. Not a place to, and people just have this. People see, and these are smart people, Joe, and this is what kind of perplexes me about this. Some of the people that ask me about this and say, well, I think I'm going to take, $10,000 or $20,000, I'm going to put it in Bitcoin. Why? Why? What's the thought process? And right away they get mad at me because they think I'm just, being a jerk. I'm not. I actually want to know what the thought process is. If you're using it as an investment, okay, I kind of get that. Buy low, sell high, maybe it'll work out. But if you're using it, as a substitution for cash, I understand cash is, essentially valueless paper, but at least you can hold it in your hand. You can take it to a store and you can exchange it for goods and services for now. This electronic, and I think that what's going to happen here is that this is kind of the gateway to get rid of cash. Everybody eventually is going to have an electronic wallet. And they're already talking about it with the Real ID, that was supposed to go into effect back in 2008. Well, that's been pushed forward thanks to the good efforts of, many legislatures at the state level who are aware of, the pitfalls of this. And they've waged a fight. Even in Pennsylvania here, we're not jumping on board with that either, and we're jumping on board with pretty much everything. So even a place like Pennsylvania is not jumping on board with the Real ID. But the whole point of that is to have an electronic wallet, all your information stored on your driver's license, where it can be swiped, scanned, read by RFID reader, whatever the case is. These are not very secure mechanisms of storing information. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America, and we have more security for our information than ever. Yet identity theft is growing at an exponential rate. And I think that the electronic wallet, the cryptocurrency, I don't think that helps that situation. I think it makes it worse. I hope that addressed Jim's, search for knowledge on the crypto thing. And you can go and should go and do some research on your own if you're thinking about using one of these, and look this up. And don't just trust blindly what I'm saying either. Go do your own research. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always tell people. Don't just trust me. go verify for yourself. You know, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't partake in it. I know a few people who do. I know a few people who did and who no longer do because of some of these reasons. But yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, there are literally hundreds of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin of which being just one.
Yeah,
and where it falls apart for me, aside from what you are saying, in addition to what you're saying, rather, is that, well, what if you had 10,000 cryptocurrencies? Would your Bitcoin or crypto coin or whatever you want to call it still be worth the same? If there's 1 trillion coins out there, or 10 trillion, or 100 trillion, or quadrillion coins out there, would this coin still be worth the same? I mean, in exchange, worth the same? Well, it couldn't possibly be. I mean, you know, so, but no one knows how many coins are out there, and it's not homogenized yet. So to me, it's a big unknown. I think right now, people are getting involved because it's the latest thing where they feel that they can make some money. The market's tapped out. That's going to start going down because it's overvalued at this point. There's no money in bonds whatsoever, and people have been frightened to go into commodities because they hear on television how bad it is and how stupid it is, you know, to have things like silver and gold and platinum. It's insane. You got to be crazy to have stuff like that. Although every billionaire and multimillionaire on the planet has a good portion of their portfolio in that, but they don't tell you that. You know, it doesn't. For me, cryptocurrency doesn't pass the laugh test, other than countries would love to go to a cryptocurrency so they can monitor everything that you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The monitoring. You know, we go away from cash totally. You read some of the white papers that come out of the World Bank, the IMF, and so forth, and you know, one of the big things that's mentioned now is that all the tax revenue that's being lost worldwide because of the underground economy. And what the underground economy is basically just people doing things under the table, for lack of a better word. That's what we call it here. I'll pay the neighborhood kid $20 to mow my yard every week. You know, that's an example of the underground economy because it's not reported.
Right.
There's no taxes collected on those transactions. And more of these think tanks and organizations have been talking about, you know, how much revenue is being lost by governments and other taxing authorities because of this underground economy, and they want to stop that. If you look at a lot of the controls that have gone into place over the past half dozen years, so you know, some of the stuff in Dodd-Frank, and different other forms of legislation, you know, in other parts of the world, a lot of it is based and aimed at cutting off this underground economy thing. But they're not going to stop it. See, this is what they don't understand. The people who are doing this now, some do it out of convenience. All right, let's be realistic. But there's a lot of other people. They do it because they realize that direct exchange is more authentic than the economy that we have now.
Yeah,
they understand the difference. If you take away their cash and give them, you know, some kind of stupid card that has a wallet that's electronic, they're going to barter goods. You know, they might say to little Johnny, you know, hey, you wanted this, I don't know, I'm not very inventive, a scooter. You know, for example, well, if you cut my grass so many times, I'll give you that scooter because we happen to have one laying around here. They're going to do that kind of stuff. And they are already. It's already happening. Not on a huge scale, but this is where, you know, people are losing faith. And this is, I think, the bottom line of all of this. People are losing faith in paper currencies. They're losing faith in repetitive statements from government officials saying, you know, yeah, don't worry about that debt. It's all good. You know, we got it covered. No, you don't have it covered. You don't have anything covered. You know, $20 trillion here, what did you say? 1.4 for student loans, 1.2 for consumer credit. God knows how much for mortgages. I mean, where does it stop?
Yeah.
I mean, we owe so much money, and the Europeans and the Australians and the Brits, they owe so much money. How can anybody sit there and have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to say, "Oh, we have it covered"? You don't have anything covered. You're making it up as you go. That's basically what's going on here. Is these countries, governments, whatever, they're making it up as they go.
Yeah. Where do we go from here? We've, we tapped out the housing market, and basically what we did is we gave people houses for nothing just to keep that going. Then we did the same thing with credit cards. Then we did the same thing with automobiles. Then we did the same thing with student loans, to keep them in college. I mean, we keep on giving things, tangible things away, and education is a tangible thing, I guess, in a way. We keep on giving it away, and we're not getting any return on any of that. Can you guesstimate when we hit the brick wall, when we've given everything away, we have no more to give, and the people that have the recipients don't have jobs or don't have enough income to pay it back? Doesn't the whole economy at that point stall out altogether? I mean, if you see it that way, could you tell me, when is this going to take place? It's been going on for such a long period of time. They're saying now the number of people out of the workforce proportional to the population is now worse today than it was during the Great Depression. Madonna me. I mean, shouldn't that be a wake-up call alone, that one indicator?
Yeah, we hit the brick wall already. That's why we're having to do these crazy and outlandish things like giving away houses, having zero interest rates, and this thing with the Fed and the games they're playing. This is a credibility issue now at this point. They've talked so long, well, they have to make some kind of token move, or else there's just going to be a total loss of confidence amongst people that haven't already lost confidence. We did hit the wall. That's already happened. If that hadn't happened, if we still had the wall in front of us, and again, this is, my opinion, we wouldn't have to be resorting to these drastic measures. And these measures are drastic. And when you're talking and you're looking at, greater than 50% of the population is on, various types of government assistance, the workforce proportions, people working, the total population is, less now than it was during the Great Depression. Yeah, we hit the wall. But again, this is not going to be a sudden, fast thing. And this is one of the points that I've been trying to make for a long time with people, because I'm not into selling fright newsletters, and scaring the daylights out of people, and getting them to make rash decisions based on, being scared and emotions instead of actually making an informed decision. This is going to take time. It's going to unwind, and that's what's happening now. And that's why you're seeing the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrials at all-time highs, because that, to most people, is the economy. That represents the economy to the average person. They see record highs, they think the economy's great.
Right.
And I think that a few too many of these analysts also drank the Kool-Aid on that one.
Yeah. And,
they're looking at that, and it's so obvious. I mean, there's been so many great analysts who have broken this down and shown how it's manipulated. You just take the fact and look at the fact that those 30 stocks, a whole bunch of them aren't even industrials, and they throw away the losers. They change the index every so often.
Yeah.
AIG, gone. That was the big one. They went broke, they got thrown out of the index. What would the index look like if they had kept it the same as it was in 2006? It would not be where it is now. It's all perceptions. It's all about maintaining, they talk about maintaining expectations and managing expectations. The Fed's big on that terminology. Well, that's what this is right here. We keep the stock markets pumped up. People think that the economy is good. They're going to be willing to go more into debt.
You know,
It really is that simple.
But it's so disturbing to me that we have a president to make America great again because he's a businessman, and yet he's acting no differently than a crooked politician, than a slimeball politician. Here we have an economy where the debt ceiling was reached. All spending should have ceased at that point, but they just kept on spending, and they start spending like drunken sailors after that because they had no debt ceiling. You know, he talks about, when Obama was in office, how dare we be involved in Syria? Now we're bombing Syria. Now we have planes flying over Syria, buzzing Russian airplanes, causing problems with our trading partners. This guy has exasperated everything. We're spending more money. You think at this point, if he was a true businessman, he'd say, guys, we reached the debt limit. That's it. You have no more money until you reduce your staff, whatever. No, but no. He sends troops over to Afghanistan. He sends troops over to Syria. He sends troops over to Yemen. I mean, does this guy not understand basic math? You have no money, you can't spend money, but he spends even more money. And people who are diehard Donald Trump fans, he's going to make America. That means nothing, Andy. Absolutely nothing, because he's a businessman and he knows how to do it. Well, so far he's demonstrated he doesn't know how to do it.
Politics is very dogmatic, and people are going to stick by whoever their allegiances happen to fall with, regardless of what that individual does. It's been proven, administration through administration, going back many, 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 many years before I was born, before you were born. It's the nature of that particular beast. People are going to stick by their person. And a friend of mine had a saying he used to like to use, if you're going to run with the dogs, you're going to get fleas. Well, if you're going to swim in the swamp, you're going to get a little muck stuck to the bottom of your shoes. Maybe Donald went in there with very high expectations and pure intentions. I don't know. I don't know his heart. I don't know the man personally, so I can't attest to any of that. What I can attest to is that it always seems that, these individuals, they run for office and they may want to do this, that, and the other thing, but when they get into office, it's almost like they get a little chat. Now, this is the way we really do things here.
Right. Yeah.
And this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna increase military spending. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna run the debt up. We're not gonna care so much about that. And we're gonna try and keep people's attention away from those kinds of things. That's how we really do it here. So that's the kind of punchline or party line that you're gonna carry with your message. Is that we'll forget about what we were going to do when we were a candidate. We're going to focus more about getting these other agendas done, because let's face it, I mean, who really sets the agenda for the United States, for the government? Is it the president? No, it's not. Is it Congress? No, it's not. Who is it? It's special interests. Right. It always has been. That's been that way for at least 100 years, probably more. So I'm sure there's people that have done fantastic historical research on government and geopolitics. Special interests have had their hands involved in government and how it's been run for a very long time now. This is nothing new. It's been going on forever, pretty much. Yeah. It's human nature, really, when you think about it. It's greed, avarice. The average person, I can get a foothold here. I can get ahead. I can get more for me, more bigger slice of the pie for myself. Well, they're going to do it. That's the way humans work by and large. Everybody says, well, people are generally, at a basic level, nice people. I actually disagree with that. And, and here's why. And here's my evidence and my backup, my rationale for saying why. Do you have to teach a kid to be bad, or do you have to teach a kid to be nice and behave?
Yeah. You have to teach them to behave, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. My parents lost that battle.
That knows no better. What are they going to do if you leave them to their own? They're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the human nature at its very basic level right there. So we have to keep that in mind and not have too high expectations for government. And this is what John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and some of these other, Thomas Paine, some of these other individuals that wrote about these issues were talking about when they said, you have to keep an eye on your government.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're going to end up exactly back in the situation that we just fought this long, expensive, costly, in many ways, and bloody war to get out of. You're going to be right back there again.
You know what I was hoping for, Andy? I was hoping that Donald Trump would get it. And I was an anti-Donald Trump during the election. So I'm not talking from like Republican-Democrat point of view where my man didn't win. I didn't want Hillary. I first time in my life I stayed up all night watching the election results, hoping that Donald Trump would win. So I went in there with a positive attitude. So I'm not one of those guys that said, well, I hate the guy and I hope he fails and then everything he does is wrong. I was, naively, I was hoping that he would go in there, make changes like a guy would come, he'd have to elect somebody for the Department of Defense. He goes, what for? We don't need one, a Department of Welfare. Why? We don't. In other words, really shake the place up. And of course, there would have been impeachment all over. But after 3 months, after truly draining the swamp, closing military bases, bringing us back from Syria and from Afghanistan, bringing all the troops home, he gets on TV. He says, I think I did enough damage. I did what I wanted to do. I am now going to resign, and I'm going to allow my vice president to take over and walk away. He would have been the hero of the world, and he blew it.
You got that right.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was a monumental chance for somebody to really come in there and, like you said, shake things up.
Yeah.
Here's the Constitution. If it's not in there...
Right. That's all he had to do.
We're not doing it anymore. I'm not going to execute. And remember what his role is. Remember what the role of the president is. It's the executive branch.
Right. It's branch. It's the one branch. Yeah. One branch of the three. Yeah.
Execute lawful laws. Yeah, say that 5 times real fast. It's to execute laws passed by Congress that are deemed to be constitutional by the courts. That's it. So any law that comes across my desk that is not constitutional, I'm not going to sign it.
Right. Yeah,
it's going to get vetoed.
He had nothing to lose by doing that. It's not that he didn't have a job after that. I mean, he could have resigned and he still would have gotten a salary for the rest of his life. And he would have been a hero. I mean, literally a hero, not only to the people of the United States, but to the world community. And he would have gotten a tremendous amount of respect for the United States, for all the other leaders of other countries around the world. It was a win, win, and win all the way around. And he blew every opportunity he had.
Yeah, I would. I'm not a big fan, I guess, of politicians. But if he would have gone in there and done something like that and really, really shook things up and said, hey, we're going by the letter of the Constitution now, and Department of Education, federal, that's a state issue. You guys are all dismissed.
Yeah, and some states would have done away with the Department of Education altogether in their states and had public and private schools, just like it should have been. And if the parents didn't want to send them to school, that's the parents' responsibility, not the state. Anyway, I can go on. Well, we have passed the witching hour, Andy, once again.
We have.
Yes, we have. Well, I want to thank you so much for calling in and filling in for me. This was not a good day for me, and you've helped me out tremendously. And I do hope that we hear from you again in the near future.
Oh, you definitely will. I appreciate you guys having me jump in here for a few minutes and kick some things around. People need to be paying attention right now. I mean, this is a dangerous time. You've got escalations in Syria. North Korea was hot. Now it's all of a sudden is on the back burner, but that's still going on. There's these little smoldering conflicts, if you will, in many different places. And you had a near miss here with an F-16 and an Su-27 Russian jet here yesterday, I guess it was. So there's a lot of stuff economic wise. I mean, what are we really looking at here? You get IMF, World Bank, even the Commerce Department. Everybody keeps lowering GDP expectations for America. And what we're having, the growth that we're seeing, we're borrowing at minimum $4 for every dollar of growth, and at maximum we're borrowing $17 for every dollar of growth. So the fact that you have to borrow in order to grow on a consistent basis, that tells me we've already hit the wall. That's another bit of substantiation to back up that assertion that we've already been there. We've hit it, and that's why we're having to do these things.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I would just encourage people to be informed. Get as informed as you can. The people that are listening to this show, they don't have to be told that. They're already informed. Not just because they're listening to this show, but because they're out there looking for sources of information that aren't mainstream. They want to hear different things. They don't necessarily want to be fed the party line every day all the time. So I thank the people that listen, and I thank them for their emails of support that we get. There's not a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about it. There's not a lot, but it's gratifying. It's good to know when you've been able to help somebody, and I know this show does that. And so again, thank you for everything you guys do to get this, these messages out there to people so that they can make more informed decisions for themselves.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy. I hope we hear from you again real soon.
You absolutely will. Take care. Goodbye, friend.
Folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, as my wife would say, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well. Stay tuned.